Hey guys, it's Jack. I want to tell you guys about the sponsor for today's show. It's Mando. Mando makes a whole series of male grooming products. They are unique in that they are a deodorant that you can use all over your body, on armpits if you like, but also wherever else you may deem necessary. And I have been using these products for about 3 months now. I've been using the body wash. It's bourbon leather. I've been using their bar of soap, which I really enjoyed, and also their deodorant. And so I exercise a lot and get very sweaty, so I need a deodorant that's going to do the job. And Mando has come through for me. You know, the body wash was great. I actually used all of that. Need to reorder some more. But the bar of soap was also very cool. It was very smooth, actually. So I hope you guys will go and check them out. They have a starter kit that's up there, and they have a special deal for Team House viewers. So the starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. As a special offer for listeners, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code TEAMHOUSE at shopmando.com. That's shopmando.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando.
Special Operations, Ops, Espionage, The Team House, with your hosts, Jack Murphy and David Park.
Hey everyone, this is episode 332 of The Team House. I'm Jack Murphy, and our guest on tonight's show is a very interesting person, Michael Hawks, but you go by Mick, right?
Yeah, Mick. Yeah, absolutely.
So Mick spent a long career in the British military, including in the Special Air Service, deploying in Northern Ireland, the Falklands, all kinds of the Balkans, and then spent a second career in the gas and oil security field in private security contracting. He is also the author of the book Life on the Edge, which is coming out probably next month, in the near future. So many of you who are listening to this podcast, it's probably already available. If you're watching it when it just comes out, you may have to wait a month or so. Mick, thank you for joining us on the show today.
My pleasure. I much appreciate it. Thanks for inviting us.
Yeah, man. So your book is a autobiography, and we're kind of going to, go through some of it on the interview today. And we like to ask our guests, first off, sort of how they grew up, what their upbringing was like, and how that kind of propelled them towards military service.
Yeah, quite bizarre. So my father was in the army. He was, we call it over crap at. So he wore a BlackBerry, normal raw signals, wasn't anything special. We deployed all over the UK and Germany. I went to about 10, 12 different schools, but ended up being quite good at football. If that makes sense, and I had no intention of joining the military, believe you me, because all the people that I saw were quite rotund, alcoholically rotund, if that makes sense. So there was no inspiration really to join the military, and so all I ever wanted to do was be a professional footballer, which was going great because I played for every school that I went to. I played football for. And then when we moved back to, so my mum and dad divorced when I was 15. We came back to the UK because we lived in Germany at the time. Came back to the UK and played for a small team in Lincolnshire. And they got me a trial with a little team called Lincoln City, who sort of lower echelons, really. They're not the Man Uniteds of the world, but so I went for a trial with them, and they didn't pick me. And I was like, hold on. What do you mean you're not picking me? I played left back, obviously left back in the changing room in their eyes. So I never got picked. And so I was quite gutted. So what to do at 15 and a half? So I then decided, well, let's have a look at the military. And literally, I walked into a careers office, and there was a big burly paratrooper sat behind a desk, and behind him was a massive picture of a C-130 Hercules, and a lot of people jumping out. And I just looked at the picture, looked at the individual who looked the part, to be quite frank. It was sold. And he said, yeah, sign on the dotted line here, and that was it. I joined Junior Parachute Regiment at 16 years of age. Fantastic.
You're a boy soldier.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell you what's bizarre. So I'd never actually finished a cross-country run in my life because, I had a football under my arm, and, that long distance run, what's all that about? I don't need to do that. So I'd never actually finished a cross-country run when I was at school. And then I went down to Aldershot, joined the Junior Parachute Regiment, and one of the first things we did was a 10-mile run, and bizarrely I came second. Wondered where that came from, and I found out pretty quickly I was a bit of a natural runner. To the extent that I've done a half marathon in 69 minutes, if that makes sense, and so really, really good runner, and that really sort of set myself up really for the rest of my career. But unfortunately, with the Junior Parachute Regiment, so I was 16, went down there because I'd been to boarding school, so I got used to being away from home. Whereas a lot of the other kids, this was their first time away, and it's the first time really that I'd seen, older kids crying at night, because they were homesick, I suppose. But thankfully I never went through that. But during my time there, so I joined the cross-country team. Fantastic. This will give you a bit of a flavour as to the mentality of a parachute regiment. So the Junior Parachute Regiment, our cross-country team was quite good. However, we came second to the Army Catering Corps. And what happened was, you get your trophies at the end of it, and then we drove back to Grounding Barracks in Aldershot, thinking that we were cock-a-hoot because we came second and we had our first little trophy. And as we were getting off a bus, the RSM turned up, Parachute Regiment Depot Para, turned up with a big shiny bin. and basically he said, listen, if you think coming second to the Army Catering Corps is a positive thing, you can think again. Every one of you, throw your trophies in the bin. and really that was, the competitiveness of the parachute regiment compared to other organisations. But it set me off in good stead. So I joined the gymnastic platoon because they toured all around the country doing gymnastic displays. Great. And then at 17, you then go into normal recruit training. Did P Company. Week 14, we went on a run, and I snapped my ankle pretty badly because I tried to jump off a tank burn in Aldershot, a place called Hankley Common. There was these about 8 foot, 9 foot high tank burns, and you had to jump off and do what you perceived as being a para roll, but we weren't para trained. We were still going through training, so I just landed like a bag of crap on the floor, I suppose, and my ankle snapped, and they sort of carried us. In them days there was no medical facilities. We didn't have an ambulance with us, so it was carrying me back basically 6 miles back to camp. They manipulated my ankle into place, and then left it for 3 weeks, re-x-rayed it, and then realised that it hadn't knitted properly. And it had to be pinned. So they pinned the ankle. Took me about another 9 months to rehabilitation. And then I got called in really to have a chat with a training major and a medical doctor. Just to let you know, medical doctors are the bane of my life. And you'll understand as we go through. So this medical doctor decided that my parachuting career was over. And I think just being a bit overzealous, I suppose, because I was a young kid, 17 years of age. And they said, listen, these are your options. And because of that mentality, parachute regiment or nothing, I actually left the army for about 4 or 5 months. Realised that was a big mistake. Went back to the same recruiting office. They said, listen, you've got a really good report here. Obviously you can't parachute. However, have you thought about being a commando? And I thought Royal Marines. And they went, well, the Army have got commandos as well. So your options are Royal Artillery or Royal Engineers. So I decided to join the Royal Artillery and then spent, went down, did the commando course, basically down in Plymouth. Fantastic time. And ended up going to Scotland, being posted up to Sem Battery in Arbroath, Scotland. For the next 7 years. So it was great.
And with the Royal Artillery, you did a tour to Northern Ireland?
Yeah, so here we go. So when I did the commando course, everybody that was on that course was going to go to a battery down in Plymouth because they wanted them to do a 6-month tour over in Belize. Not for me. The battery that I wanted to go was up in Scotland because they were going to Northern Ireland. So I found injury on my ankle. So we'd all passed, basically. We were all about to get on a bus to go down to Livingston to do the Royal Marine commando tests, or the commando course as such, all arms commando. And I just played on my ankle, my ankle snivel. And the instructors knew what was going on. They knew that I wanted to go to Arbroath. And they said, listen, Mick, fair dues, but you're going to have to do the whole thing again. But I wasn't that bothered, to be honest, because I wanted to go to that battery. So unfortunately, they did the whole thing again, which is fine. It kept you fit. So, no whinging and whining about that. Ended up going to Scotland, where I wanted to go in the first place. And we did a tour to South Armagh, which at the time was quite interesting. 2 para were out there. They'd lost quite a few people at Warren Point. 18 young soldiers got killed at Warren Point. So South Armagh was quite a hot spot. So we had a place called Besbrook, and Newton Hamilton were our 2 areas of operation. A lot of it was a lot of rural work, going out in the countryside, looking for bits and bobs. And nothing happened. It was a very, very quiet tour. But what it did teach me later on in life was how very little good intelligence the normal British Army get given, or the Green Army as we call it, because all the top intelligence, when it comes filtered down, goes to special forces or to the surveillance people. And then all the crappy stuff gets filtered down to the normal British Army. So really, you just sort of walking and hoping to pick up intelligence and be lucky, to find someone walking around with a gun to take on or whatever, But it was a bit hit and miss. But we had a very quiet tour, which was a bit of a bummer because you always want something to happen. That's perks of joining the military, I suppose. But very quiet tour. Came back quite happy. Got my first operational tour out of the way.
And then you got spun up for the Falklands also in this unit.
Yeah. So although I was in the artillery, I've never been on the guns in my life. Firing the gun.
That's funny.
I fired the guns when I went through basic training, but I was very lucky that I ended up in the FOO party, the forward observation, and that's where my trade was really. And so when the Falklands came round, we were attached to, so it was 4-5 Commando, who we were co-located with in Arbroath, Scotland anyway. So when it came to the Falklands, we were attached to 4-5 and specifically Yankee Company. So a little 4-man team attached to Yankee Company. If they needed any artillery support, we would give it to them. So we did the Yompa cross, as they call it, or the Chaba cross. Basically we came ashore. It was a quiet beach landing, I suppose. You know, we were expecting quite a heavy sort of hostile, defence by the Argentinians, but there was no one there, and so it was quite. But then we as soon as you get up to the high ground, you start digging in. That's when the aircraft start coming over, the Argentinian aircraft, and that's when you realise that you're in a proper war, I suppose.
Yeah.
The very sad sight was watching a British frigate, the Antelope, actually get bombed and sank in San Carlos water directly in front of us. And there was a very brave individual went on there to try and detonate or to defuse a bomb. And unfortunately, the bomb went off and killed him outright along with another person. But the vessel broke its back, and quite a sad sight, I suppose. Watching a sort of a large vessel like that sink directly in front of you. So that was, that got you into it as well. 2 Para then made their move up to Goose Green, and then we got the move then to start moving out along with 3 Para to make the push really over to Mount Kent. So got to Mount Kent, so I told you I've got a pin in my ankle. Now, just before the Falklands, I actually went down there to try and get the pin taken out. So in the September, they couldn't get the pin out, so they buried it deeper, but it had left a bit of a mess on my ankle. So because of all the walking that you do on the Falklands, and it's very boggy, peat bog, my ankle went really gammy, septic and everything else. So when I was at Mount Kent, one of the guys said, "Listen, mate, go down there, go to the first aid post, get it wrapped up and good to go, ready for the battles, because we had all the main battles were coming up, And again, another medical doctor decided that he was going to fly me off to a place to a hospital ship called the Uganda. And I just looked at him and thought, hold on, I've just walked all the way over through Peat Bog, getting here. We're about to start the battles, and you want me to go sick. And so I ignored him. He told me to go and get my kit. Totally ignored that. Strapped it up, a bit of brufen, paracetamol, pat yourself on the head, and get on with it. And that's what we did basically. And the next day, literally the day before we were moving out towards Two Sisters, one of the major battle sites that we were going to be attacking, this doctor tried to hunt me down and found me and ordered me to pack my kit basically. And thankfully, we had a major who was attached to us. He overrode him and said, "Listen, Hawksy, he's happy to, with his ankle, let him get on with it." So thankfully overrode him. And then we did the attacks, and it was great because it was Two Sisters. Unfortunately, 4-5 lost all their mortars, so they didn't have any mortars for the attack. So they were very reliant really on artillery support. Some of the things we did, artillery support, the danger close was flipping dangerous because we were playing it by ear, doing danger close on a training facility is totally different to doing it in warfare.
Yeah.
So it was, a lot of it was off the cuff. Keep your heads down, guys, because these rounds are going to come in.
How close do you guys think you walked it in?
Yeah, they were about 30 meters away from the closest.
With artillery, that's really close. Yeah.
Yeah, but 105, and this is, I take my hat off really to the gun team down at the other end, because not one of the rounds that were fired all night was off target. They were all spot on. And it was 8, but we weren't even using our own battery. It was 8 battery, one of our sister batteries, because of the way the batteries were, and the trajectory, we couldn't use our own battery. So we used 8 battery. And I tell you what, I take my hat off because their gunnery skills was just spot on. Every now and then you got a totally different round, so a illuminating round would go off with a HE, or or something else would go off. But the reason for that is they were getting that short of ammunition. They were just chucking anything up the gun, and it was fair one. Like, but we did have to curb the enthusiasm of the Royal Marines, because they ended up starting to use the artillery like mortars, and you can't do that. We're an area weapon. So taking out a machine gun post is not going to happen, if that makes sense. And you had to be brutally honest to them. When you're nexting, guys, take that with your section and just get stuck in with your bayonets, because we couldn't afford to use all our ammunition up, because our next objective was Sapper Hill. And anyone that knows the Falklands, Sapper Hill is a long, flat run-in to hit the last hill overlooking Stanley, and that was our next objective, and we needed ammunition ready because we were getting really short. So having to sort of curb the enthusiasm, but it all went well, because just after that, the Argentinians, obviously they sort of were running off, retreating. We followed them. We followed them with the artillery. Quite bizarrely, when you actually put a load of rounds down in front of the people that are retreating, they like to look in the holes, where the thing went off. For some reason, they like to congregate and have a look. And when you're on the radio like that, repeat, and you send do I feel bad about that? Not at all. They're retreating. They're not surrendering. They're retreating. So these people could actually be going back to Sapper Hill, our next objective, and end up killing us. So no qualms about chasing retreating enemy at all. Thankfully they surrendered, and that was it, finished. Unfortunately for me, it meant that we came back on the Canberra, which was more like a luxury liner, I suppose, painted white in a war zone, bizarrely. But I ended up, because my ankle was completely jammed up by then, I ended up 3 weeks or 2.5 weeks for the whole voyage in the sick bay on antibiotics, drinking the odd sort of beer that the lads managed to sneak into the sick bay, if that makes sense. Would I change it? Not at all. It was the right call, because we're a 4-man team, and going sick, people that go sick in a war zone, unless you've had your arm shot off or you've lost your leg, is a bit of a no-no. Get it strapped up and flipping just get on with it, if that makes sense. Because some of the people that were at the Uganda were people that had been burnt up really badly on some of the vessels, or some of the people that had been shot in the head, and you turning up with your gammy ankle, that it didn't sit right for me. And that's why we made the decision really to ignore the exuberant officer, the medical guy again. So that's the second time now that I've had issues with doctors. So that was the Falklands, and it was great. A lot of respect for the Argentinians. I thought they fought bravely, and as good as what they. Bearing in mind that the Brits sent all their top people down there. You had the SAS down there, SBS down there, 2 parachute battalions, 3 War Marine Commando groups, with their artillery support and everything else. So it was quite a high-powered British element that went down there. And we all knew that once we got ashore, there was only going to be one outcome, I suppose. But we were getting close to that logistics nightmare of running out of ammunition. So thankfully the Argentinians surrendered, perfectly on time, I suppose.
The average person today is feeling the financial strain more than ever. Expenses are up, wages aren't keeping pace, and many people are finding it nearly impossible to make ends meet. With little left over for covering the basics, it's no surprise that many are resorting to credit cards just to get by, often carrying high balances and interest rates in the 20s and even 30s. If you're a homeowner and you're stuck in this cycle of mounting debt, you need to call my friends at American Financing. Their salary-based mortgage consultants are saving homeowners an average of $800 a month, helping you put your hard-earned money back where it belongs. Plus, if you act now, you might even be able to skip your next mortgage payment. There are no upfront fees, so it costs you nothing to find out how much you could save each month. It's time to break free of the stress of debt. Call American Financing today and take control of your financial future. 866-889-8010, 866-889-8010, AmericanFinancing.net/teamhouse.
If you sleep hot at night, you know just how disruptive it can be. Whether you're having trouble falling asleep, you're waking up sweating in the middle of the night, or all of the above. That's where GhostBed can help. As the makers of the coolest beds in the world, GhostBed is your go-to for cooling mattresses, cooling pillows, and even cooling bedding. From their signature Ghost Ice fabric to patented technology that adjusts with your body temperature, every GhostBed mattress is designed with cooling in mind. So whether you want a plusher mattress that cushions your shoulders and hips, or a firmer option with exceptional support, your GhostBed will keep you cool and comfortable all night long. When you purchase a GhostBed mattress, your comfort is guaranteed. You can try out your mattress for a 101 nights risk-free and make sure it's the right fit for you. Plus, they offer free shipping and most items ship within 24 hours. If you're not sure which GhostBed is for you, check out their mattress quiz. You'll answer a few questions and get your personalized recommendation, or reach out to their friendly team of sleep experts for all the help you need. Even better, Team House listeners can get 50% off site-wide for a limited time. Just visit ghostbed.com/house and use code HOUSE at checkout. Again, that's ghostbed.com/house with code HOUSE at checkout to save a whopping 50% off site-wide. And if you're not in the market for a mattress, check out their pillows, their bedding. They have all kinds of great stuff there. So thanks to GhostBed, and check them out.
So it sounds like there are kind of like two themes in your military career. One being what you started doing as a forward observer, the sort of a scouting role, and then the other becoming mountainous, working in the mountains. And after the Falklands, you told me that you did 5 trips to Norway because your unit had sort of an Arctic warfare role at the time.
Yeah, so because we were based up in Arborough, Scotland, so with 4-5, we were the Arctic. We're in the Arctic role every year. So either late December or very early January, you deploy 3 months. You deployed to Norway, and you ended up going up to the Arctic Circle for the final exercise, Narvik, that area. But at that time, Norway was fantastic because it was a dry cold. It was flipping freezing, but it was a dry cold. And when it's a dry cold, it's survivable. It's quite easy. As long as your admin's on the ball, you're not going to lose your glove or, your skis fall off or whatever, then it's manageable. The coldest place I've ever been, and Foxy, you listen to Foxy's podcasts, he alludes to it fantastically. Stony Bridge Ranges in Wales is the coldest, and I've done 5 Norways, is the coldest I have ever been, because it's a wet, damp, miserable cold. And when you're on there for 7 days and it's chucking down with rain, and it's the middle of winter, I tell you what, it really does test not only the morale but the resilience of people.
Yes.
You go on exercises up in north of Scotland, up in the mountains up there, and again, same wet weather, miserable. I'll tell you what, it certainly makes a man of you.
And then 1986, your first shot at SAS selection. Tell us about how that comes about. How does the SAS come on your radar and you start to think, this is something I want to do?
Falklands. Well, obviously, so when I was on the Commando course, the Iranian embassy siege kicked in, and that was B Squadron. So B Squadron was on the back of my mind. B Squadron. So that was when I first joined the military. I thought SAS was something to do with postal, special air service. I didn't have a clue they were special forces until the Iranian embassy siege in 1980, and I happened to be on the Commando course at that time down in Livingston. So that pricked my interest up somewhat. Then the Falklands came about, Northern Ireland, seeing these people turn up with fairly long hair at Besbrook Mill, driving in and out in civvies, again, getting a feel for what they're doing. The Falklands, they had two squadrons active down there, G&D, doing a great job. Unfortunately, I never actually came into contact with the SES teams because they were off doing their thing, if that makes sense. But it was obvious. And then we did an exercise up in the north of Scotland when it was chucking down with rain, and the SES were up there also part of the exercise. And again, you just knew that that's the place. If you wanted to get something further out of your military career, going to the SES is the obvious thing, because there's only so many operations that you can do in the Green Army, whereas the regiment, the SES seem to be involved in everything. So if you're that way orientated, then doing SES selection was the right thing to do, if that makes sense. So 1986, so about 2 or 3 years before that, I started training, because it's like most things on the hills. If you're going to do a course, you study, you do your homework and that lot. Your homework for the SES is up on the hills, so that you know the routes inside and out. Because if you know exactly where you're going to be going, it just means that it just takes a lot of pressure off it, if that makes sense. And some people are good at map reading, some people are not so good. So the people that are really good at map reading tend to do a winter course, where the weather's right in front of you, and you can't see diddly squat. So, you have to, your map reading's got to be on the ball. And in them days, it was great because there was no GPS. It was just map and compass and get on with it. And then the summer course, in a way, because it was nice in summer, well, we're talking about the UK here, so 2 weeks worth of summer, maybe. But because it's fairly decent weather, some people can get away without being really good at map reading, if that makes sense. And well, unfortunately, with 1986, we had the horrendous weather, and it was, and the course was, and for me, it was going great up until the point where they said, right, we're going to have to cancel test week, because the weather's so bad. So we did a weapons week in the classroom, and so doing stuff that we would have done the week after test week, in the build-up ready to the jungle phase. So we did it a week early, but the weather didn't improve at all. So they said, listen, guys, we're just going to have to go for it. So the first route that we did, so we're looking at 7 routes here that you have to do for test week, and the first one was pretty easy going, I suppose, and I was about the 4th one off the truck. And when you jumped off, literally the snow was up to your crutch. You had 45-pound Bergen on you, your weapon, and then up and down mountains, and away you go, and quite hard going, to be honest, especially for the first person, because he's trailblazing basically. But it's not a case of one person goes off and everybody follows him. They've got about 5 different routes that you go off, so you don't know which way you're going to be going until you actually get to the checkpoint, and they say, right, this is your next grid, and I'll be, because the guy who's directly in front of you might be going to a different checkpoint. So that just negates that everybody following it. But I got called off first for the second route, and it was a horrendous place called Elan Valley, which was really boggy, and then you've got this sort of 4 foot of snow up to your crutch, and off you go. So off I went, as you do, crack on. And I got to the second last checkpoint, and bizarrely, the training major and the sergeant major, course sergeant major were there waiting. And as I was coming in, they just said, Hoxie, step off, go and get yourself a nice cup of tea over there. Nice bit of advice, go and get yourself a nice cup of tea, and then allow 2 people to sort of get in front of me. And I looked at them and thought, is this a test? So it was fantastic advice, but, like a dickhead, I totally ignored it because I thought it was a test, No, I'm okay, no problem. They went, oh, okay then. So I cracked on, and all I remember is going up to the final checkpoint. And bear in mind, the final checkpoint's on a high feature, and then it was all downhill then down to the valley bottom where the vehicles were. Piece of cake. All I can remember is waking up in a helicopter, and that is a quite a bizarre feeling, to be honest. And I was helicoptered back to Sterling Mines, put into the sick bay. And they kept me in there all night. Training major came in and said, unfortunately, the doctor has not recommended that you continue the course. So basically, you failed.
So you had gone hypothermic out on the course?
Sorry.
You went hypothermic, I take it, out on the course?
Yeah, hypothermic and delirious and exhaustion, everything else. But it's funny because the instructor who was up there on that checkpoint, he actually came in to see how I was, and he told me the story. He said, Mick, when you came in, he said, you took your burden off, you got your map out correctly, I told you which way to go, I put my map away, sort of said, yeah, happy with that, and then I picked his burden up, not mine, picked his burden up, and then ran in the totally opposite direction to the way he told me to go, and that's when he knew there was something amiss here. So we basically rugby.
They stopped you, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean. And I was just out of it, completely out of the game, So what they said was, listen, you need to, because they wrote me a fantastic report, and they said, listen, get Hawksy back on the next course, which is going to be the August course. And I went back to Scotland, Arbroath, and thankfully, I suppose, and trying to say this nicely, but I actually met my future wife, Kim, while I was up there in that sort of period, and it was I just sat looking in the mirror really and had a chat to myself, as you do, and thought the SAS course is always going to be there. It's not very often you meet the perfect female, if that makes sense, and the perfect girl. So I forsook going back on selection ready, and I built a relationship with this lovely lady, who ended up giving me 4 fantastic children, So it was the right thing to do. So I then went back on selection in 88, 88, and then I was fortunate enough to pass. And the reason I say fortunate, 180 people starting our course, 12 of us passed. And believe you me, that first bit running up down the hills, it takes a lot out of your body. And we always say, if you can get yourself to, test week, the start of test week with that 0 injuries, good to go. It gives you a really good chance of actually getting through that selection phase, that initial up and down the hill phase, because that little phase, bear in mind that's not the hardest part of selection by any means, but it's a way of getting the numbers to, down to where they want it. And it also gives the selection instructors, they know that you've done your homework, basically, because if you haven't done your homework, and you get lost on the hills, and bizarre story. So I was coming over a hill, and this was on test week. Coming over a hill, and there was a dog in front of me, in the middle of nowhere. But I recognised it. It was a little Jack Russell, and it belonged to one of the directing staff, one of the instructors, because he had 2 of them. They were a pain in the backside, to be honest. But and unbeknown to me, where his checkpoint was, a helicopter had come in, spooked the 2 dogs, and then just bomb bursted. And as I was, so it managed to find one of them, but the other one was gone. And to be honest, speaking with him later, he actually said, I actually thought I'd lost the dog completely. But it was just sat in the middle of the track, and I thought, well, I recognise the dog, and I can't really leave him here. So with your burger, I just chucked him, sort of holding on to the 2 back legs, your weapon, and I literally ran up to the checkpoint where the DS was, and there you go, staff, there's your dog. No thanks whatsoever. But right, your next checkpoint is okay then. Thanks for that. And, you know, away you go, like, you know, bizarre, typical. So yeah, managed to get through that bit. Obviously went to the jungle. By far the hardest part of selection, bar none. Anyone that thinks running up down hills is hard, you wait till you get in the jungle. Unfortunately, we had a fatality in the jungle, so that was a bit of a wake-up call. And we were doing a camp attack, and unfortunately, one of the lads had got a live round mixed up with the blank ammunition. When we did the camp attack, so we did ours in the morning, went really well. The camp attack went in, and you know when there's a live round's just gone off here. You know, all the blanks are going, and then this live round went. And basically what had happened was the guy fired the weapon, and he was literally about 4 feet away from a guy dressed up in Chinese uniform. He was a young lad who was attached to the regiment. They've still got a plaque on the tree over in there in memory of this young lad. So no one knew him really, but you know, sad to say that someone died on training, like, you know, and really that that was, you know, the start of the SAS operations, because then you realise that, you know, the training that you do is right on the edge because it has to be, if that makes sense. But when the guy pulled the trigger, the live round smacked into the back of the blank firing attachment.
Yep.
But a slither of the round had sort of fed its way round down the side of the barrel, and it was this tiny slither that went straight through his heart, and he basically was dead before he hit the floor, basically. So, quite bizarrely, all the people that were on that camp attack all had to hand their weapons in. The SIB, the military police, turned up in the jungle with their suits on, bizarrely. Bear in mind it's in crappy conditions, so they turned up to take statements. Nothing to do with us, you know. We were sort of out of the way. So all the other lads had to hand their weapons in. They got told to go and cut a length of, you know, a bit of a tree trunk. That's going to be your weapon for the next 24 hours. Just so that they had something to hold. And then fresh weapons were brought in the following day, and then it was just, you know, get on with it, crack on. You know, just as per normal, like, you know. Managed to get to the end of that, end of selection, or the end of that part of it. We were down to 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 people. We were down to 16. And then it was straight into combat survival. Bizarrely, combat survival, so right near the end of the course, and everybody knows what combat survival is, you know. You go on a run for a few days, and then you get a bit of a kicking and a bit of interrogation, all that sort of stuff. But you know, nothing untoward, I suppose. But we lost 4 people, bizarrely. A guy got captured on the run and psyched himself out, and thought, you know, if he's been captured, it means that he's failed. But actually, quite a few people get captured on the run, and all you do is you get a bit of a slapping. And then throw back out on the run, like, you know, get on with it. Don't get caught again, you muppet. And away you go, like, you know. And then so he went, and he was a paratrooper, bizarrely. Second one went, he hyperventilated in his mask when he was masked up, hyperventilated. Third one didn't like the stress positions, and it was funny because you're giggling away to yourself. Because all you could hear is this guy whinging and whining, moaning and everything else. And he just said, "Fuck it, get me out of here." So he went, and, you know, you're sort of chuckling away at yourself and whatever. And then the final one was, in them days, it was the big 5, name, rank, number, you know, date of birth, and that was it. Something else, can't remember what it was. And that's all you were allowed to say, because it wasn't the old cover story type thing. It was just a straightforward
POW.
Yeah, absolutely, the old way. And that's all you could say. So I actually thought I'd failed, because when I was in a stress position, someone actually put a bit of bread in my hand and said, "Right, quickly put that down your throat." And so as you do, so I chucked it down my throat and chopped it down. But I made the mistake of saying, "Cheers, mate." Oh, and all of that was playing in my mind for the next three days. because I actually thought I'd failed, because I said, cheers, mate. And another guy who came out same time as me, he nodded at a question. So he actually thought he'd failed as well, because if they're videoing you, they could just manipulate that nod.
Right.
You hear slaughter the children. Yes. If that makes sense. And so we were pretty gutted, really. We thought, no, we both failed here. And then this guy came up and said, oh, is that all that happened? And we sort of looked at him and went, yeah, why? And he apparently blabbed his, told his life story. So me and this lad that thought we'd failed, we sort of looked at him and thought, yeah, actually, I think we're going to be okay here. So he failed, and that was the fourth one that went, So it ended up with 12 of us that sort of passed. Went straight on to doing black kit just to get used to, firing a weapon with a respirator on, doing the anti-terrorist stuff and everything else. And then we get called in, and you get badged. And there's no airs and graces, there's no big fancy parade. You just sat there. RSN comes in, throws your berry over to you. Congratulations, well done. Any questions? No, fine, right. Head off, and then they read out what squadron, what battery, or what squadron you're going to go to. And thankfully, I wanted to go to B Squadron Mountain Troop, and that's exactly what I got. So 4 of us ended up going to B Squadron, and it was great. So, and that was the start of a fantastic time, really, for me. I loved it, loved every minute of being in the SAS.
And before long, you got shipped out for the Gulf War.
Yeah, so if I've got any negatives about the SAS, it's this little period here. And what it was B Squadron were on the anti-terrorist team on the 6-month build-up to the Gulf War. You had A and D Squadron that were actively going to be deployed to in theatre, their dues. And then you had G Squadron, who were on standby squadron at the time, and they were actually in the desert doing all the build-up, ready. So spent 6 months, really, doing desert warfare. But then December, so the build-up, ready, I suppose, was in the January. But in the December, we did our sort of change around. And B Squadron sort of, and what really should have happened was they should have said, listen, B Squadron, unfortunately, you're going to have to do another 6 months on the anti-terrorist team, because, and G Squadron are already sort of, already good to go. So let's leave them in theatre. B Squadron, although, it's not nice to do an extra 6 months, but, you understand quite well. But they didn't, and B Squadron deployed, really. So went out in theatre and were hunting for jobs. And I ended up in an 8-man team, really, up to the UAE to do a teaching task, doing anti-terrorism for the UAE government as a favour, really, for British forces using facilities in the UAE. So it was a bit of a payback, I suppose. While we're here, Special Forces will teach you.
We built this big coalition for the war, so.
Yeah, it's exactly when you see the bigger picture of it. As an individual, you're pretty pissed off. We should be up there fighting, and the pretense was that as an 8-man team, if there was a lot of casualties, we would be airlifted and then sent straight up and take the casualties place, and we were happy with that. Literally 2 days before the ground war started, the air war started, the CO of T2 SAS came up to where we were, sat us down in the officers' mess and said, listen, guys, unfortunately, your war is going to be here. So we ended up, for the 4 months of the first Gulf War, we were sat watching it in the officers' mess in the UAE in the middle of training. Watching it all pan out on CNN, and when you see T2 SAS guys from Bravo 20 being captured, not knowing where they are, and seeing this all play out, it's quite a tough watch, to be honest. And to be honest, looking back on it, a bit farcical. You know, what the hell were B Squad doing there in the first place? Should have had G Squad out there. So that was a bit, you know, a bit of a raw thing for me. I didn't agree with it, but you know, hey, we just get on with it. That passed, and then thankfully, you know, I was lucky enough to volunteer really to go to Northern Ireland, because I'd done a little stint with the regiment over in Northern Ireland, out of the hangar, because when you're on the anti-terrorist team, when they need extra people to support the small team that you had over there, you got sort of flown over. So I got a bit of a taste for it. So totally different to the Northern Ireland that I did, Green Army. You know, this is now, you know, you're playing with the big boys, basically. And so I got a bit of a taste for it. So I thought, I'll volunteer to do the 14 int, as we call it. Nowadays, it's called the Surveillance and Reconnaissance Regiment, SRR, or as the SAS call it, the SAS Rejects Regiment. So if you pass, if you fail SAS selection and you're half decent lads, they'll say, "Listen, have you thought about doing the surveillance course?" If that makes sense. So, bit of a dig really at the SRR. They're good lads, to be honest, but they're not SAS.
Hey guys, it's your pal Jack. I just want to take a moment to tell you about the sponsor for this show, which is StopBox. StopBox makes this very cool box to secure your items in, or your valuables, or weapons. Could be a firearm, knife, things that you want to keep away from kids. Opens up like so. And the way it locks is very interesting. And you can change the combination, by the way. So you have these actuators on the side. And in this case, for demonstration purposes, the code is to hold down the index finger and pointer finger, and then come over and there's a thumb. Hit that, and it opens up. So that's the code. This thing is proudly made in the US of A, so they keep the quality very high. It's also TSA compliant, so you can throw this in a bag and travel with it. And StopBox also offers a range of other innovative products, including their vehicle safe, chamber lock, and other essential gear designed to keep you prepared and protected wherever you are. For a limited time only, our listeners are getting a crazy deal. Not only do you get 10% off your entire order when you use the code HOUSE at StopBoxUSA.com, but they are also giving you a buy one, get one free for their StopBox Pro. That's 10% off and a free StopBox Pro when you use the code HOUSE at StopBoxUSA.com. Discover a better way to balance security and readiness with StopBox.
So anyway, so I did the volunteer to do the 14 in. So 4 people from the SAS. So they run 2 courses a year, 6-month courses. So 4 people. So each of the squadrons will put someone on that course, and it's a great skill to have. Believe you me, surveillance, the CTR, close target wrecking, and the CQB, close quarter battle, they are exceptional skills to have in your armory, and it's why you do it. But what you do is you put yourself on a bit of a pedestal, because everybody likes to fail an SAS guy. So I got called in by a guy who'd done the course before me. I said, "Listen, Mick, word of advice: when you go down there, shut your mouth. Even though someone who's teaching you hasn't got the same experience as what you've got, just shut your mouth and allow them to, it's their toy, basically." And so that was the attitude. I went down there with the perfect attitude, and just, suck your thumb and just get on with it, I was lucky enough to pass the course. And again, the reason I say that is how the hell I never failed, I don't know. Because when we used to do all the surveillance, at the end of it, they would bring the target in that you've been following, and they would say, right, let's have, right, what did you see as a target? What did you see of it? Well, Mick, I saw you do this, and Mick, and and it was, everything was at me, and I was like, hold on, am I the only one on this flipping surveillance course or what? And so I actually, and this went on and on, and I thought, flipping hell, how the hell did I pass that course? So I went in for an interview with a training major, and he said, "Right, Mick, how do you feel? Congratulations, first of all, for passing. Well done." I went, "To be honest, I said, I'm shocked I'm here." He said, "Well, why?" I said, "Well, you were in some of them briefings. It was as if I was the only one on the course. I'm getting picked out for everything. I'm obviously not that good." And he went, "Mick, bear in mind that the course is being run in Hereford." He says, "All you're doing, you're getting stuck in. And we can see that you're getting stuck in there. There's some of the people on this course now that never got stuck in. And if you don't get stuck in a nice, safe environment like Hereford, you've got fat chance of getting stuck in when you're working against hard terrorists over in Northern Ireland." He said, "So we can rein you in, if that makes sense. Some of the people here that we've got with us now, are going to need a bit of a gentle push to get them out there." And he said that's why you passed. So I took that on board, really. Went over to Northern Ireland for 18 months. It was a 6-month course. I was lucky enough to do North Belfast, the markets, and Short Strand area, which was sort of classed as South Belfast, and we had a bit of the West Belfast as well. So I had a really active, and we were the Shankill, the Ardoyne, the Tigers Bay, all these sort of areas were very closely connected between the Protestants and the Catholics, if that makes sense. So I spoke with a British accent. Who the fuck are you looking at? I never once attempted to speak with a Belfast accent, because why would you try and pretend to be someone you're not? Because if a Belfast local speaks to me and I try and speak Irish, they're gonna look at me straight away and think, "Dickhead, what? You're not from here." So I just used to, and bear in mind that my hair was a lot longer than what it is now. It was practically on my shoulders. I had a big gold earring in my ear, big pirate thing. And my sort of cover ready was I was a chippy. So I had lots of bits of wood in my car. Every now and then I would walk out and I'd have my carpenter belt on, nails all over the place. And that was my cover thing, going, and you were always one up. So you weren't working in twos like MI5, there's 3 people in a car. In Northern Ireland, you're on your own. So if you get yourself in the shit, you need to get yourself out of it, if that makes sense. And it was great. I absolutely loved it. What I found out was I was not the technical whiz kid. So some of these people had fantastic, the cameras all in their car and all this sort of. Yeah, I didn't have any. What? No, that's not my game. But what I was good at was getting out of the car and following these people and being right behind them and getting stuck in and finding out where. And it's horses for courses, because every unit needs people that are quite ballsy, I suppose. And because my get out of jail card was always a pistol. You know what I mean? So if push come to shove, that's going to get me out of trouble every time, So. And unlike the Northern Ireland police, their surveillance teams, E4A, who are the most bravest individuals I've ever met, because they're working in an environment where they live, if that makes sense. Whereas British Army people, with our little fancy long hair, and we're only there for 18 months, and then we're out of it. So we can really push the envelope, if that makes sense, knowing that my family is back in Hereford,
right.
Not living somewhere else. So I literally took my hat off to these, the E4A surveillance operators for the Royal Ulster Constabulary. Extremely brave individuals. Same as the normal police force. Thankfully, we had quite a successful time. We managed to put quite a few bad people away, if that makes sense. And bear in mind, this is not about working against the IRA. This is working against bad people. And unfortunately, the IRA just happened to be worse than most people. So a lot of our work is obviously against the IRA. But, we've done a lot of successful operations against the Protestant community as well. You know, if they're planning something and they're carrying a weapon intent on killing somebody, then we're going to take them on because they're bad people carrying a weapon. And this, that, and that. So it was a fantastic tour. Really enjoyed it, and that's where I got my Queen's Award, Queen's Combination for bravery for operations over there. So that was a nice little touch to get that when you came back. But I literally finished. Oh yeah. So because my hair was so long, every time I came or flew back into Birmingham Airport, I used to get dragged aside by the customs, immigration or whatever, because for some reason they I looked like a drug runner, and as soon as you pulled your army ID card out, they'd look and go, "Hold on, you're not army." Actually I am. But and it was great. So thoroughly enjoyed it. But came back and it was straight back onto the anti-terrorist team, and that's, to be honest, that's why the SAS are good at what they do. Because the diversity in their roles is just staggering. From long hair, shave it all off, anti-terrorist team. Finish anti-terrorist team, Bosnia, away you go. And so you've got individuals who can adapt to any environment and get on with it and make even with crappy equipment and bad communication, they'll make it work. Because that's the key thing about an SAS individual, and it's quite unique. Some of the things that they can come up with and make it work, and it's great. So
tell us about taking some of your undercover experience and surveillance experience to the Balkans.
Yeah, so it's quite interesting actually, because a lot of the work you do is intelligence gathering. That's one of the main roles of the. And bear in mind that we were still part of the UN at the time, because we were lucky enough to be over there when it was UN. First 3 months was a UN tour, and then overnight you just paint the wagon, take that blue. Well, actually, we never ever wore UN equipment at all. And the reason we did it is we worked in 4-man teams all around the country, and if we were to follow the UN mandate, wear your blue beret and all that crap, you'd never get any work done because you're following a mandate that was completely flawed, if that makes sense. So we didn't do that. So we didn't wear berets, never wore body armor, and the reason being is a lot of our work was working with the frontline troops. And if you're working with frontline troops and you turn up with your fancy body armor on and your big blue helmet looking a complete dick, you lose the street cred straight away. These people have got no interest. So we used to dress how they dressed. They look like a bag of crap. We look like a bag of crap. And it's just that, street cred, if that makes sense. And you can do a lot of things. If you're not dressed as UN, you can get away with a lot more stuff as well by doing your job, because ultimately your job is to get as much intelligence that the normal UN can't get, and get that sent down to Sarajevo to one of the generals, General Jackson or General Smith or whoever the general was down there, and that's your role, and it's quite a ballsy thing to do, and we always up. So if I'm talking to a major in the Serb army or a major in the Muslim army, instantly I'm a colonel, or lieutenant colonel. You just up your rank so that because that's the only way of getting the respect of these people. Now, I don't look like a lieutenant colonel, and I certainly don't speak like a lieutenant colonel, but that's just the way you go about your business, and away you go. But some really interesting stuff comes in it. So the surveillance side of it is great, that you can, so a lot of the situational awareness and all that lot. But unfortunately, it backfired. We're in this sort of non-UN look about us, because I was working with Billy Billingham, Who Dares Wins. Most Americans will probably recognize him. Billy's a great friend of mine. We're in the same troop, mountain troop, Beast One mountain troop. Billy had sort of joined about 2 years after me, something like that. But I'd been away. So Billy deployed instantly when B Squad went out there, and I was delayed about 3 weeks, and I think I was on a course, or can't remember what it was, but I was delayed, so I came out there 3 weeks after the boys had been out there. So when I got there, sort of Billy was showing us around, getting used to the area. And we got asked to set up a meeting between two generals, Serb general and a Muslim general, General Dedarkovic from 5 Corps, quite a hardcore Muslim general, actually. Quite a decent individual, but quite hardcore. Just get on with it. And this Serb general. So we did the recce, as you do a little recce beforehand. So we went down there the day before to the location, which was just outside a place called Sanski Mosque, if people know sort of Bosnia. And we recognised, we did a recce of the area, went down and spoke to the frontline troops, both Muslim and the Serbs. Had a chat with them, quick Slivovich, coffee, had a quick sort of drink with them, quick hello, blah, blah, blah. Listen, guys, we're going to see you tomorrow. We'll pop down for a chat tomorrow. So the next day, we set the meeting up, blah, 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 and it was a UN meeting. So the 4-man team, 2 of our guys stayed at the meeting. UN were doing all doing their thing, whatever they do, UN, doing their thing. And then we had 2 warrior vehicles. One was on the Muslim side of it, which was from the light infantry, British infantry unit. And then the other one was sort of pushed down towards the Serb side, and about a kilometre into no man's land. So me and Billy, looking like a bag of crap, no berries on, just pistols. We walked past the checkpoint, which is where the light infantry was, banged on the thing, said, listen, guys, we're just going down for a quick chat with the Serbs. Infantry looked at us and thought we were mad as hatters. Got down to the frontline troops to, expecting to meet the same people that we were speaking to the day before. And then just walking up, you could see everything had changed now. It was different troops. And we should have put 2 and 2 together and thought, if they're going to bring the general up, they're going to bring their top troops up as well. But we never factored that in at all. So my situational awareness, straight out the window. And so got down there, as you do, because, again, quite ballsy, what you're trying to do. Got there, and all of a sudden, we were surrounded. And there's 8 or 9 Serbs pointing AK-47s at you. Not a lot you can do. You're not going to take them on. 2 of you with pistols. You're not going to take, 8 or 9 who are already got the weapons in their hands and good to go. So it was, just, hey, listen, guys, trying to calm it all down, de-escalate it. So they then took us into a small building, took our pistols, all our spare magazines, ID card. We had maps and notebooks with us, but thankfully they're all sterile. There's nothing written on there whatsoever, which is good. Spent about an hour doing quick interrogation talk, and we were both together. They then decided that they were going to drive us about 45 minutes further down the line to a place called Prijedor, and which was heavily served area. So they put us in the back of a vehicle, a little 4x4 vehicle. There was a major who was driving, who spoke really good English, and then there was a big burly chap sat in the passenger seat with an AK-47. Me and Billy were on the back seat, and we were sort of whispering, as you do, sort of. This guy, the English guy, the guy who spoke English, said something in Serb to the big burly guy, who literally spun round on his seat and then cocked his AK-47 in our faces. I mean, Billy sort of actually looked over, and I don't know what it was, but we both started laughing. And the reason being is you expect someone on the front line to have a weapon already cocked, and military mentality taking over. You're like, hold on. If I'd known that he didn't have a round in the chamber, we could have flipping jumped him. So that, and I think a lot of it was nervousness as well, if that makes sense. But anyway, so being laughed at didn't go down too well with this individual. So 40 minutes further up there, we got to a camp, basically, and off we went. Now, because I'd done 2 years in Northern Ireland, we do the cover story. You get captured, on your training, go through a cover story. So I had a rough, I knew what was coming, if that makes sense. And my cover story was great. I'd only been in country 2 weeks, and I'm just a driver, and that was my cover story. They didn't know that. I was actually senior to Billy. So got there. I got dragged in first for interrogation. Pulled us in, and I just stuck with that story. Listen, I know nothing. I've only been here 2 weeks. I'm a driver, and that was it. And they tried to get more out of you. No, nothing. I haven't got a clue. No, sorry. And anyway, they threw us out in disgust. And then poor old Billy got dragged in. Now, Billy had been on a Serbo-Croat course, so learned a bit of Serbo-Croat and made the mistake of trying to answer in Serbo-Croat. And as soon as he did that, they put 2 and 2 together. And, I was the thickie outside in the corridor that knew nothing, the driver. So a bit of a waste of space out there. This is the person that we're going to concentrate on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And poor old Billy. So Billy got dragged out. I was expecting to now go in. Billy went back in again, out, in. I'll tell you what. So they never touched me at all. Although I was getting a bit of a hard time sat outside, because, as they do, threaten you with knives and, put a knife in your, typical normal, psychological, whatever, but nothing untoward, if that makes sense. You knew that they weren't going to kill you. Why would they? But it was just intimidation. So you can live with that. So just get on with it, But poor old Billy was getting dragged in and out. And then eventually we managed to get fairly close together. And we sort of leaned over and Billy said, "Oh, mate, what did you tell him?" And I went, "Sorry, mate, but I just said I'm the driver." And Billy looked at me and, "Yeah, but I'm the driver." You lose, mate. If you go in there first, you're obviously going to get your cover story out the way first, So yeah, so it was good, but we eventually got released because the front line, the 2 other guys reported us missing. The general down in Sarajevo said, "Listen, go into the meeting now and arrest the Serb general and threaten him with taking him back to the Muslim lines." And this guy pooped his pants, got on the sat phone, and got us released straight away. If that makes sense. So,
Mick,
so we were walking. Yeah, we were walking back basically, having got our kit back. So went through where the warrior vehicle was. Right, lads, yeah, we're back now. Again, the infantry sort of shaking their head. What the hell? And we were talking, thinking that wasn't a major drama. That for us, some of the stuff that we do in Bosnia, you expect to be either shot at, or taken prisoner at a bare minimum. To be quite frank, because some of the stuff that we used to get away with was just ballsy to the point of you're really pushing the envelope here. So being captured was for us. So the next day you just get up, have a shower, and out you go again, doing your normal job. It wasn't a big issue.
Did you ever find out why they detained you like that? Was there a specific reason, or is it just like one guy who had a wild hair up his ass, thought he was a tough guy, and I'm going to detain these Brits?
No, we spoke to him because we actually spoke to the major. So when it became when UN finished and it became NATO, the individual that interrogated us became our liaison officer, if that makes sense, bizarrely. And and basically we spoke to him because we didn't look like UN. We had no UN kit on us, and all of a sudden these strange people.
Yeah, so they correctly identified you as special something or other.
Yeah. But they never got it out of us that we were, because bearing in mind that Grozny and not Sarajevo, but Srebrenica, we had SAS teams there that were actually bringing in fast jets, and the BBC, typical BBC, they actually recorded an SAS team bringing in and broadcast it on the World Service and the Serbs obviously knew that. So the Serbs knew that the SAS were capable of bringing in fast air jet.
Yeah, yeah.
So for them to get 2 SAS guys prisoner, but they never got anything out of us. They never cottoned on. They played it by ear and got released But quite bizarrely, so nobody knew. So apart from the other 2 lads, the major in charge of B Squadron and probably another couple of people, they were the only people that knew that we'd been captured. None of the other, just because we just kept it nice and quiet, just get on with it, So when Billy came on Who Dares Wins on TV, he alluded to the fact that he'd been captured, and started talking about it, and anyway, so he was getting phone calls from members of B Squadron back in the UK. Hold on, Billy, you've never been captured. He went, actually, we were captured in Bosnia because we just kept it quiet. Because for us at the time, in that era, it wasn't a big drama. You know what I mean? Yeah, capture, you get a bit of a kicking and a bit of rib tickling with a knife and getting threatened with cutting your head off and that stuff. But normal stuff that you would expect. To be quite frank, it wasn't a big issue. And that's the attitude that we had, I suppose. But it was a great tour. We sort of finished on that, and then for me, from there it was straight over to MI5. Bizarrely, so again, this is where that diversity comes in. You just finished a 6-month tour in Bosnia, doing the stuff that we were doing there, and then all of a sudden go back to UK, and then working with MI5 for 2 years, So it was an interesting time.
So what is it like? I mean, you guys in the UK have a slightly different system than us. MI5 is sort of like Britain's, as I think of it, their domestic intelligence service, roughly equivalent to our FBI. What's it like as an active duty SAS soldier to be sort of seconded to MI5?
Yeah, it was quite disappointing, I suppose. Bear in mind that you're used to doing surveillance in Northern Ireland against bad people
In Bosnia.
where your skills need to be on point, if that makes sense. And then all of a sudden you're following people around London, people up in Liverpool, where you didn't really need that same sort of third party awareness about you. You weren't in a staunch Catholic estate. You just middle of London. So the surveillance skills of MI5, I personally thought was not fantastic, if that makes sense, compared to what we were used to. And I had a few run-ins with them. We were following Russian diplomats on a Sunday, and Russian diplomats they like to do car boot sales all around the Kent and all that area around Essex. And we were following these people, and it just, you thought, hold on, following Russians doing, I've just been following, bad people in Northern Ireland, and now I'm doing. So again, you had to, shut your mouth and just crack on with it, But there was a couple of really good jobs. I learned quite a lot of MI5, the way they operate. It wasn't the most exciting of 2 years, but it was an important 2 years really, because it's a learning curve, and you're there representing T2 SAS in a major organisation, if that makes sense, and the people there were just fantastic. A lot of ex-military people, really good people. Doing not paid a fantastic amount of money, but doing a great service really for the government, really, stopping major terrorism, if that makes sense. So, it was different. It wasn't as intense as the 18-month that you'd spent in Belfast, because believe you me, Belfast surveillance totally different to doing surveillance all over the UK, mainland UK.
But you were chasing around some IRA and some Albanians around the greater London area. Yeah,
so the IRA was setting up. It just so happened that the IRA had a cell operating predominantly out of West London area, and this went on for quite a while. This surveillance, and this is where basically when I came back, I said, "Listen, we're working for the wrong people because MI5 don't carry weapons, so we don't carry weapons because you're working with MI5." And then you've got the anti-terrorist team and the special branch all armed up. So as soon as the job was getting really interesting, someone pointed out that the IRA cell might be carrying weapon, and as soon as that came up, MI5 got binned. Sorry, you can't operate against them because you're unarmed. And we were biting. Hold on, this is our bread and butter now. This is where we're going to get stuck in, and we so when I basically went back to Hereford, I literally said, maybe we should be working for someone else, because working with MI5, because they're unarmed, you're not actually going to be at the forefront of that, that job, if that makes sense. That's going to go down to the anti-terrorist team and, their surveillance team and special branch, which is the people that we should be working with, to be quite frank. So, yeah, it was an interesting 2 years. But, did I really gain a lot out of it? No, I don't think I did, apart from learning London like the back of my hand, which is good. And meeting some fantastic people, but professionally, I didn't really learn a lot, to be quite frank.
You guys during this time frame had a IRA guy shot though, right? As a follow-up, as part of your investigation.
Yes. So that's where it all finished. But so basically, the IRA cell were meeting in a safe house or they thought was a safe house, little hotel in what was it now? Anyway, western part of London, and basically the police decided to go in and make a hard arrest, if that makes sense. And unfortunately, when they make the hard arrest, there's a good chance that someone's going to pull the trigger. And what happened was, unlike SAS, where when we gain entry, it's generally in one door. So you blow the door in and you're in there. The police don't have the satisfaction of having explosive entry. They're not allowed to use it, whereas we can. So there's a lot of banging of doors and making holes in the door, and so quite a lot of confusement, and a grenade, smoke grenade gets thrown in there, and in all the confusement, I suppose, one of the IRA guys got shot dead, and unfortunately, he was unarmed. So that caused a few dramas as well. When you've got two teams coming in two different doors, shouting and everything else, the IRA guy's not going to have a clue what he's supposed to do, I suppose. So that caused a bit of a noise. I bet on the inquest. As why he was shot dead, if that makes sense. But call me old-fashioned, but if you're an IRA cell working on mainland Europe, mainland Britain, then you're up to no good, if that makes sense. So zero sympathy, I suppose. If that's the profession that you intend to do, it's the same as we're getting a lot of bad press at the moment because of incidents that happen in Northern Ireland, because SAS are quite robust in their actions, and when you're dealing with hardcore terrorists and you come face to face with them, generally there's only one outcome, I suppose, sure. And you just get on with it. Same as Gibraltar, exactly the same. These people were there to murder innocent people. They were there to blow up a military band, but by positioning the car where they were going to put that car, the blast radius would have wiped out quite a few civilian people, and people tend to forget that. And thankfully, they were dispatched before they could actually do their deadly deed, if that makes sense. Is that a bad thing? No, not at all. These people were intent on harming individuals, other people. And I can honestly say that every IRA terrorist who was actually shot dead by special forces, predominantly the SAS, the world is a safer place, to be honest, because that is a bad person who was intent on killing quite a few other people, like, so no sympathy whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, the targeting civilians is kind of like beyond the pale. That's kind of like there's whatever your politics are, that's taking it too far.
Yeah, I'll tell you what's frustrating is the IRA at the moment and Sinn Féin, what they're trying to do is change history of the Troubles. We all know about the Good Friday Agreement, and then all the IRA terrorists got released. You had the Shankill bombing 18 months before that. Peace talks come out, and then these people that blew up, 8 people or whatever, 9 people in the Shankill bombing, now released, out walking the streets. Yet you've got British troops who are being hounded by, incident. And, I put a post on LinkedIn and I said, there's a big difference between an IRA terrorist and a soldier, a British soldier. Because a British soldier wakes up in the morning over in Northern Ireland without the thought that he's now going to be going out and killing someone. An IRA terrorist does that. They plan that weeks in advance. IRA, the army, we just respond to a situation not of our making. And unfortunately, sometimes innocent people get killed. But certainly the military guy, when he's reacting to a situation which is not of his making, he's just dealing with it. Unfortunately, innocent people do get killed, and the British Army are not, they're not whiter than white. Some people have been killed, unfortunately, accidentally, but it's not the intent of a British soldier to go out and murder people. It just happens because they're reacting to a situation. Slightly different to an IRA terrorist. They go out and they plan on murdering lots of people. Big difference.
So from there, you spent your 2 final years in the SAS in the training cell, both for 14th Intelligence Company and SAS?
Yeah, so it was running the close quarter battle cell. Fantastic job, really. And it was me and another SAS guy, Kev Smith, rest in peace, who unfortunately passed away about 4 years ago with a heart attack. But we ran it, and it was fantastic. We had a great time, and it was good because we actually changed the whole course because the course that we took over, all the situational awareness stuff that you do on it was actually really realistic. People get really hurt going through these scenarios because ultimately we're taking soldiers, training them up, picking them up, and then putting them into an environment where they need to be up and running straight away. So all the training that we do is really right on the edge, and we've had people nearly shot in the head and all this sort of thing. And we don't have safety arcs. We used to go down to Senney Bridge with the normal British Army to take over ranges, and the range wardens will be down there. And you go down there once a year to sort of fill out your forms and stuff. And they'd say, right, have you got all your templates? And all the British Army are handing their templates over. We turn up with a cup of coffee in your hand saying, yeah, sorry, no templates. Sorry, who are you? SAS. And everybody knows that, because we can't afford to have templates, because some of the stuff that we're doing is actually quite risky. So you just get on with it, if that and just make it up as you're going along. I know it sounds a bit callous, but some of the drills that you have to sort of pass across, there's no time really to have these safety arcs because you're dealing with people that you expect to be able to do this on the streets in Belfast. So have to be at a certain level, if that makes sense. These are not kids. It's funny, we nearly had a fatality on the ranges, and it was 2 people firing down the street on the same side of the street, and it was a female and a paratrooper, of all things. And the paratrooper was at the front, and he was kneeling down, firing his pistol, and then the girl was behind him, firing over the top of his head, because she's the one stood up behind. And the drill is, before you actually make your move, you just take a quick glance so that you've got eye contact with the girl behind you. She sort of acknowledges that you're now going to stand up. So she basically puts a weapon up, allows him to run past, and then she goes down in the kneeling position and continues firing. And it's quite a simple drill, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we used to teach way back when, I guess now. I mean, we used to teach that if somebody's in the kneeling position and you're shooting over their head, you actually come up over the top of them so your arms are over their head so that if they stand up, they're not going to be in the line of fire.
No, we don't do that. The reason we don't do it is you're in doorways, and because you're in, if you're on the street, you're in one doorway and the other one's in another doorway. So there could be about 5 feet between you, and that's why you need that eye contact, if that makes sense. And there's a lot of trust here, if that makes sense. Anyway, so it goes, but unfortunately now every drill that we run, we always get it videoed, so we can play it back and blah blah blah. So anyway, what happened was the paratrooper, instead of turning around and looking, he literally stood up as she fired.
Oof.
And literally the bullet creased his hair, put a part in through his hair, if that makes sense. Anyway, so and she was flapping, she was really cut up about it. So we said, listen, crack on, let's change round, just carry because we needed them, especially her. We needed her to just
build the confidence,
get back into it, get back on the horse. But that evening, we actually got the footage of and we saw how close that bullet was, and we thought, right, there's a good opportunity now. So we got the whole course. So some of the course are doing surveillance, some of the course are doing close target wrecking. Our lot were doing CQB. So we've got them all in the course, and bear in mind that the Rangers, we were the most laid back training team because it's me and Kev, and having a good laugh and everything else. But as soon as you step on that range, hey, RoboCop, you're good to go, So fairly relaxed, but now we're working. So you need to start switching on. So we took them all back. We got them in the cinema, showed them the footage, this party, and everybody thought, flipping hell. This guy was millimeters ready from getting the back of his head or the front of his head shut up, And what we said to him, let's not make a big drama out of this, but you just need to know the simple facts of life. You mess up on surveillance, you're going to get a slap on the wrist. You mess up on CQB, you're going to get a slap on the wrist. You mess up on that range, you're going to blow someone's head off, And it wasn't the girl's fault at all. It was the individual that was at the front, the paratrooper, who was at fault, and he understood that, if that makes sense. But it's so easy to do. And like I say, when you're teaching normal army people, females, paratroopers, whoever, you're trying to get them to a level very similar to the SAS, if that makes sense. But you've only got a certain amount of time to do it. So the learning curve is absolutely massive. You get these people normal on the range, doing your normal sort of drills initially. And then when you start to bring in, different things, like running down the side of a street, car drills, firing in a car and all the other things. But then you do all the situational awareness stuff as well, which is all blank firing, obviously. But it's where people get battered. We have a civilian population, and people. And what you do is you don't just throw people in the deep end. It's slow build up. So you do 11 days worth of situational awareness. So one situation per day, and it's a slow build up really of what they would be doing in Northern Ireland. What someone walking up to you asking you the time. How are you going to react or whatever. And it's just seeing how this individual is going to react to a bit of stress. And it all builds up to getting filled in and battered, jumped in the back of a car and driven around and then interrogated and stuff like that. So it's quite hairy and quite, people do get hurt, but it's realistic and it has to be. because ultimately, as soon as these people finish a course and they're passed, bang, they're straight over in Belfast. And you mess up in Belfast, you know, you're going to end up getting yourself killed, as we saw with them two signals guys who got slaughtered
In the car.
in West Belfast a few years
Were
ago.
they? Are you talking? I'm thinking about years ago. In there's video of it. The surveillance team that got caught in the middle of a funeral procession.
Yeah, it wasn't a surveillance team. It was two signals guys.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was leaving. One of them was sort of just turning up, and the one who was leaving decided, for some bizarre reason, to drive him around certain areas, and he just ended up in West Belfast, in a place that was a no-go area, and that's why, because everybody run around and went, "Hold on, is that the surveillance team? No, it's not our people. Is that the SAS? No, you know, they're not there," and that's why nobody went into, because they actually thought it was a Protestant, because a Protestant had already attacked their funeral a few months before. They actually thought it was a similar thing. So all they did was they actually, you know, when it push come to shove, it was two signals lads ready. So all they had was a pistol. You know, if that had been an SAS car, flipping hell, carnage, because the firepower that's in that car would have been horrendous. Because the guys wouldn't have waited; they'd have just gone for it, like, you know, if that makes sense. So, but it changed the mindset of how you went about, you know. So, you know, in future generations, if you're ever in that situation again, basically you've just got to start taking people out. So whoever is the ringleader that's using all that, you just shoot him in the face, you know, put him down and just try and calm the rest of the people down. But, you know, it completely changed the way that we went about our training and on our outlook. If if ever you got put in that position yourself, like, you know, but horrendous, to be honest. And I just really unfortunate that it was two signals lads in the wrong place.
Yeah, at the wrong time.
Definitely at the wrong time.
So talk to us about retirement a little bit. And, you know, as you enter to, you know, the Brits call it the circuit, the private security circuit. You start working in gas and oil security.
Yeah, well, I mean, the very first job I got was actually looking after the Aga Khan, of all things. So literally been out a couple of months, got asked to run a team in Central Asia, looking after the Aga Khan. Really interesting because it was working with presidents of Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan, setting up meetings with the Masood, you know, from way back before he got assassinated, about a year later, to be honest. But it was a really interesting job and really opened my eyes up to the civilian market. But it wasn't something that I really wanted to pursue. I'm not really mad keen on close protection and stuff like that. So I ended up getting myself into gas and oil, and I managed to get a job in Kazakhstan for 4 years. Chevron Texaco were out there. It was a multinational, so I was the Western security manager. Really lucky how I got the job, because I was competing against people that had been out the army for quite a while. Literally, I'd been out about 4 months ready, so didn't have any paperwork, no templates. And we all, there's 6 of us, and we all had to go out to Kazakhstan, of all places, to do a security assessment of the site, write a security assessment. Then the following week, another guy went, so you all went at a different time, and I was the last one to go. Got out there, spoke to the people that we were supposed to be working with, found out what their troubles were, what the issues were, blah, 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 blah. Probably wrote the worst report out of all of them. You know, I didn't have anything to sort of play with. But they actually said to me, you know, they said at the end of it, right, you've seen the 6 guys now, who do you want to work with? And they went, well, Mick, because Mick was the only one that actually spoke to him. All the other people had gone out there, you know, got to write a report and actually forgot the fundamentals of winning the hearts and minds of, talking to people. And that's how I got the job, really. So ended up doing 6 weeks on, 2 weeks off for 4 and a bit years. And 9/11 went through. 2 weeks after 9/11, I flew back to the UK. 2 weeks at home, flew back. We were on an Italian charter flight, and we cut the bottom corner of Russia. And I looked out the window, and there was 2 MiG fighters escorting our plane, and they diverted us into Moscow. And the only thing that was playing on my mind was that Japanese 747 that got shot down over Sakhalin Island about 4 years before by Russian fighter jets when they blew the Japanese 747 out there. And I just thought, oh, here we go. So they forced us to land. And what had happened was the Italian charter company, because everyone was on high alert because of 9/11, the charter company had neglected to inform Russian authority that they were using their airspace to fly over. And because they didn't have authority, the Russians sent up aircraft. And so they took the aircraft, commandeered it, stuck us on another aircraft and flew us down south of the country. And we then got on a bus and sort of over the border back into Kazakhstan, which is quite interesting. So did that for 4 years. Fantastic job. It then came to a halt. I then ended up going to Equatorial Guinea.
You got to tell us. You got to tell us this story, Mick.
Yeah, it was basically a 1 year contract, really, to do this. But as it happened, Simon Mann decided that he was going to do that attempted coup. And he wasn't in Equatorial Guinea. He was out of country. But there was me and another guy working at Marathon Oil, of all places.
It was planned in Zimbabwe, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's where the aircraft got stopped.
Yeah.
And they all got arrested. But I had quite a few run-ins with the authorities. I'm not a big fan of corruption. So we had a JCB stolen. So I recovered it. I went down. What they'd done is they'd sort of painted it a different colour, but they'd neglected to take the number of the engine. So I got 2 lads from Texas to come down there with a big pickup vehicle, and we dragged this JCB all the way back. Anyway, the police came in, corrupt to the core. Police came in and said, "Listen, you need to give us the JCB back because we've got it under surveillance." I went, "No, you never, because otherwise you would have stopped to move down there." I said, "We don't need your help anymore. We've recovered our own equipment." And then for the next 5 days, a more senior policeman was coming in to give me a bit of a bollocking. Anyway, at the end of it, the company got fined $40,000 for interfering in a police investigation, corrupt to the core. The next one was a lad from Texas came in, flew in. He had a live round in the bottom of his bag because he used to go hunting. And these grips that you've got that are very easy for a rat, you know what I mean? We've all been there. And anyway, so flew from Texas Houston into Equatorial Guinea. When it went through the X-ray machine, they made a big drama out of it, massive drama out of it. So the poor lad was absolutely crapping himself. So I went down there to help him, and said, "Listen, give me the bullet." And I said, "Right," and it was 10.62 compared to 7.62 short, big difference. And I said, "Listen, this is a genuine mistake, blah blah blah. Let's not make a drama out of this." They said, "Okay, no problem at all. £40,000, $40,000 fine again." For some reason, 40,000 seemed to be the
magic number.
Yeah, the magic number. And the company paid for it. And I said, "Listen, what's going on here?" I said, "Every time you pay this fine, they're just going to fine you all the time."
Yeah.
It's easy money for them, like So, I got a reputation of not being too nice to the local authorities. So then you had the coup sort of kicked in, and it was just a great excuse really to get rid of this noisy individual getting kicked out of country. I had a massive run-in with the president's son as well. Oh my life! So the president's son decided to turn up at Marathon Oil at their sports facility, drinking alcohol. And anyway, so I was, and bear in mind that 2 weeks before we'd actually had a presidential visit, and it all went fantastic. You know, proper protocols were followed and everything else. So I found out, all the gates were open. I was like, hold on, how come the gates are open? President's son here, blah, blah, blah. I went, hold on, what the hell is he doing here? And it was a Playboy guy who eventually got arrested by the French anyway. But he was down at that. So I went down there, and before I could get hold of the president's son, his bodyguard sort of intervened. And I said, listen, wind your neck in, but, the president's son needs to go because you're not following protocol. Anyway, so we managed to kick him out, and obviously that didn't go down too well. So then you had the coup, and it was just, so I ended up getting walked out the country. And quite bizarrely, when I joined SBM Offshore for 15 years, one of the first locations that they sent me, Equatorial Guinea. And as I was flying in, I just thought, wonder if they're going to remember me. and as it happened, when I got kicked out, there was no electronic stuff at the airport. It was really old fashioned. When I flew in the second time, literally 4 years later, it was all electronic. So there was I didn't have to worry about it, if that makes sense. And actually, I've been back 4 times since then and never had any issues. But unfortunately, when you're dealing with West Africa, massive amount of corruption goes with that. And you just got to work with it and just get on with it. And living in Nigeria for 6 years, believe you me, I know every scam off by heart. Because honest, every day you're getting some sort of scams coming up like that. You just end up being immune to it. And I love Nigeria. Never ever class Nigeria as being dangerous. As long as you do a bit of due diligence, have confidence in your own ability, and just get on with it, low profile. Nigeria is quite acceptable. Just do it But I tell you what, it's flipping difficult, really, really difficult to operate because of the corruption. Everything is cash in hand. Quite bizarrely, SBM Offshore sent down a compliance female. So she'd been to Monaco, she'd been up to Rotterdam, over to Malaysia, over to Houston. She then came down to Lagos and tried to give the same presentation to the people in Lagos about how we can operate. And at the end of it, we just thought we might as well leave because everything you just said there, we are not going to be able to operate here. And actually, 2 years later, we ended up packing up and going back, leaving. Quite a difficult environment to operate without crossing that line of paying, cash in hand, to get, police escort, for instance. If you want a police escort, you need to pay cash in hand, otherwise they're not going to turn up, And for SBM, that was a big no-no. No, you can't do that. Well, otherwise we're not going to get a police escort then.
Well, you also got to spend 3 years living the good life in Monaco.
Yeah. So
that's a cushy retirement job.
Yeah. Well, after Nigeria, the reason I was in Nigeria in the first place is when I took over as head of security for SBM Offshore. That the headquarters are in Monaco, and I'm quite an active. I'm not a sat behind a desk type security manager. And literally I said, listen, if you want me to be head of security, I'll do it in Lagos, Nigeria, purely because that's our problem child. All the issues that we're having security-wise is all in Nigeria. So it's much easier for me to, it didn't stop me flying over to Brazil, down to the office in Houston. We used to do quite a lot of training work in Houston, active shooter. was a big thing that we used to teach. We used to go over to China, Malaysia, Singapore, all over West Africa, Angola, Equatorial Guinea again, Europe, all over. It was fantastic. Myanmar, or the old Burma. But I was based in Nigeria because that was our problem child. Followed by followed by Brazil, followed by Guyana, because Guyana was just opening up, if that makes sense, and there's quite a few issues there. So off we went, and then they literally after 6 years, they said, "Listen, Mick, we're going to close it down. You have to come back to Monaco." Okay then. So reluctantly, bizarrely, I ended up sort of Monaco for 3 years. And the good thing about Monaco, for me, at the time, there was a lot of attacks in Europe, Brussels, Paris attacks, all that sort of stuff. From about 2013, 14, 15, there was a lot going on all around Europe. So we developed this active shooter, and it's very much based on the American, run, hide, fight. The British do run, hide, tell. What that's all about, I had no idea. So we ignore all of that. So we follow the American way of run, hide, fight, and it was good because we managed to get to all the officers that we had, including Houston, so that everybody, no matter what office you were in, if there was an active shooter situation, you responded in exactly the same way. And the reason we got offered, because I went to Houston about 18 months ago to do active shooter training, and I think they actually liked the British mentality, which is very much just get on with it, because this company were on the 7th floor of a multi-story building, and a security team had gone in there from the US and recommended all these fancy ballistic doors and all that sort of stuff, which is great if you've got lots of money. But common sense says, listen, you don't need that. So we did a lot of situational awareness training with them. Identified toilets, for instance, are always inward opening doors, no windows. So get yourself a nice chock, industrial chock, bang that. So your toilet is actually a safe location. But, stick a chock under the door, get someone to lie on the floor with their foot on that chock so that no one's going to force the door open. And you lay down just in case someone does fire around through the door, because people tend to fire through doors, not down, if that makes sense. And if you study active shooting, and active shooter better than anyone over in the States, these people don't hang about because they know they're on the clock. As soon as they start pulling the trigger, they're on the clock, and they know that. So they're not going to be hanging about spending 5 minutes trying to get into a door, when they could just move on and try and shoot other people, if that makes sense. So we got quite good at doing what we do. So what we're trying to do now is get it over to the UK. But unfortunately, with the UK, we've got a very negative attitude to security. Mm. It's very it's not very proactive.
Like that doesn't happen here.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we're ripe for a real terrorist attack over here. Unfortunately. Because terrorists know there's a lot of people walking around the UK who have come off these boats. There's no due diligence done on them. You've got it in the States as well, but it's even worse over here because we're a smaller country. The London, for instance, is not British. And we've got no idea who these people are. So. If we have a major terrorist incident over here, a lot of people are going to get hurt, unfortunately. But trying to get people to understand that you need to go through active shooter. An active shooter also means people with knives as well. We've got a real bad record over here with people with knives. People harp on about the US with guns. We can't talk because over here it's knives. So we call it, knife rampage. and it's the same as active shooter. You know, knife, gun, same drills. You know, you need same mentality of dealing with it, like, you know, and it's not the nicest subject to teach because ultimately, you know, people need to be aware that to survive an active shooter situation, you may have to take another person's life, if that makes sense. And that's just the way it is. That's the nature of the training, I suppose.
And you teach these courses with your daughter, which is very interesting. Tell us about that and about where people can go to find you guys if they want to actually get this type of training.
Yeah, when we're teaching, when we're doing personal safety situation awareness training, I use my daughter really because a lot of it is we like to get into schools and colleges to get the kids at a young age so that when they're sort of leaving school, they understand, you know, the big wide world, if that makes sense. And the reason I use my daughter is she has got a great mentality. She's got 3 brothers who are all in the military. So she's of the same ilk as the boys, but she's a girly. And youngsters and females specifically, they relate to, you know, what she does. So she does all the breakaway and plan B. And plan B is, you know, if that breakaway doesn't work, you know, here's how to quickly dislocate a jaw or, you know, snap an elbow as someone's grabbing you. But we don't teach that to kids. So up until the age of 15, it's just the breakaway. Because you can't teach a 15-year-old plan B because otherwise you create monsters. They'll go out and practice it on each other, you know, snapping each other's jaws and all that sort of malarkey. But as you get older, you know, and things get a bit more serious, you need to be able to do that. So doing that, we've got a website, www.hawksandandco.uk, and it's basically we're into farm security. That's a big thing. Because I used to break into farms in Northern Ireland, terrorist people's farms. So we actually got really good at covertly getting into not only farms, but, you know, offices and businesses and stuff like that. And when you're covertly breaking in, it's a bit like the physical penetration testing. It's a lot harder to covertly break into somewhere than it is to, you know, smash your way into whatever, like, you know. So we actually got quite good. And I live in rural Hereford. I actually live on a farm here. This is the farm cottage. And I just thought, hold on, you know, that gamekeeper, poacher gamekeeper mentality, you know, so we can actually help the farmers over here. Because unfortunately for UK farmers, they're following a strategy that leaves farms wide open. Because it's all geared towards the police recovering an equipment, as opposed to stopping the thefts in the first place. So the strategy that we use over here, unfortunately, leaves all the farms wide open. So our philosophy is, you know, let's put an arm around the farmers and help the farmers stop it initially. So we're quite niche in what we do, and a lot of that is because of my background. But predominantly, it's teaching personal safety situation awareness, because 90% of the UK, over 90% of the UK, have got no awareness about them whatsoever. So we need to break into that. We need to, you know, start chipping away at that figure, because when there's an active terrorist threat, the police automatically or the government will say, right, we need you to be more aware to a population that's 9% not aware. So that's never going to work, if that makes sense. You know, if someone says be aware, you need to know what, you know, be aware means and how you go about it. And with situation awareness, you know, it's not someone can tell you about situation awareness, but it's normally someone like yourself or myself, ex-military people or ex-police, who have got a lot of experience in using situation awareness, and you can then pass that on to people. But then you're very reliant on them practicing it and practice, and until it becomes second nature. And that's when you know that you're on the. But you can't just read a book and say, yeah, I'm situationally aware now, because you need to go out there and continually doing it, and the teaching is all about all the pitfalls that I went through, what didn't work, what works, and because you're passing on your experience really to a lot of other people. So yeah, it's been tough. It's been a tough 2 years trying to break into a market. I haven't properly worked in 2 years over here. I've done the odd job, the odd school, but trying to get a contract over here. One, because I'm old school. I'm actually quite loud on LinkedIn. I don't like imbeciles. I don't like, people that are running the business, security and stuff like that. I totally disagree with, because they're not willing to improve. But we've got a bad reputation because we've got a security organisation who are supposed to be implementing good procedures, and it's not working. And so is my vocal sort of is that knocking me back somewhat, possibly. But they always say never ever lower your standards just because other people are that low. Always maintain your sort of high standards and try and pass that on. So we do penetration testing, which is all born out of, so classic one here. So penetration testing, terrorist people's houses, criminals in London, embassies. Remember Milosevic? I actually did a target pack on Milosevic's compound in Belgrade on the proviso of snatching him. So all the jobs that I've done, physical penetration testing, being captured was not an option at all. And to just get on with it. You try and go to a security company and say, listen, mate, I know physical penetration. Have you got this certificate? No. But I can, I've done this and done, I've done jobs where, getting captured will get you killed, if that makes sense. But it just seems to be at the moment, you need tick box, you need this, that, and that. And unfortunately, experience and competency seems to be a thing of the past nowadays. We're a bit of a dying breed, if that makes sense, in an environment where security is not really thought of as being a priority, sadly.
Well, tell us about the book, Life on the Edge, hopefully going to be out next month. I think it's largely about what we've been talking about on this interview so far. But tell us about the book and where people will be able to find it.
Yeah, so the book was born out of an idea, and then speaking to a lady called, God rest her soul, really, but Nicole Johnson, and we got together really, and the initial meeting was all about her telling me to push off because she doesn't write ex-SAS books. But when we started talking, and I said, listen, I don't want a Bravo 20. I just want an autobiography, but highlighting, all the difficult situations that we've been in, and how we've managed to resolve it, and get around it by using resilience, really, and a positive mindset. From the early ages of 15, not getting picked to play football. Oh, okay, then I'll join the army. Breaking, you can't parachute. Okay, I'll be a commando. And I ended up parachuting anyway. So it's having that resilience. But a lot of it was all about family as well. So it's all the emotions of, being a family man, being on operations and doing bad things, and then coming home and picking your kids up from school, having the night before been on a serious operation. And my ex-wife was brilliant, because it was a great way of bringing you back down to normality. Doing that, getting flown back by helicopter. Mick, go and pick the kids up. Yeah, okay then. And that's why I, quite a strong mentality, I suppose, and don't So the book's all about helping people, based on our life story, and the things that we went through, and what we're trying, and we've highlighted all the, how we managed to get where we are. So it's really about helping people that hit a brick wall in life, and how to get around that brick wall, by just being a bit more resilient and everything else. So it's not a Bravo 20. It's not specific on operations. It's how that managed to get you through some quite trying situations and stuff like that. So, but because Nicole died March last year, so that put the book on the back burner somewhat, because I wasn't really interested, because we'd worked together. You've spent hours and hours and hours doing the recordings and getting it all written up, and it's a co-written book, as opposed to a ghostwriter, and because she went through a real bad illness, and unfortunately passed away last March, and then sort of around about August time, she about August really, we got together with the husband, and sort of chatting away, and he said, listen, Mick, it was one of her dying wishes really was to get the book finished. So that then sort of set us out on a second challenge really, is to get the book finished. So we've managed to get a new author now, who knows Nicole, and she's read the book. She's happy with it. She comes from a military background, which is great as well. So she understands the mentality. So we needed to finish really. In December, we finished the final chapter, which is great. We've also added a memorial sort of page at the start of the book to honour Nicole. So the book really is not only helping people, but it's also to honour Nicole Johnson as well, if that makes sense. And I'd like to think that it's it's going to appeal to quite a few people, certainly military people, because everybody likes an SAS book, Greenberry book or whatever, because that's what people like to read. But hopefully it'll appeal to the civilian market as well, and people, vulnerable people, because we've got a bit of a reputation at the moment of helping people. So people ring up. Last week, a vulnerable lady from Bruges in Belgium, her helper, care worker, got in touch with us and said, Mick, can you spend a couple of hours, doing this time, talking about how she can keep herself out of trouble and stuff like that, a bit of situational, personal safety stuff.
That's good.
And we do that free of charge. And they kind of sent over some Belgian chocolates that I gave to my ex-wife and daughter as a thank you, because it's the same as farmers. We had a farm lost £40,000 worth of stock. They rang up, said, Mick, can you help us out? But how much is it going to cost me? And I said, listen, you've just lost £40,000 worth of stock. I'm not going to charge you money to come down and help you. I said, but I need fuel, so pay for my fuel to get down there and make me a bacon sandwich when we're down there, and we'll help you out, and that's what we do. It's not the greatest business model in the world, but it's just a way really of helping.
Yeah, but you like what you're doing. Yeah,
absolutely. But it would be great if we could sort of suddenly get a contract where we're actually busy, and I'm hoping that we can actually bang the door down of the farming industry, because farmers really do need help, and they need practical help, practical solutions, not follow the website recommendations. That to a non-security person, that means nothing,
Mick, thank you very much for doing this interview tonight. Really appreciate it. Do we have any questions? So Dimitri will ask, some of our viewers will have some questions for you.
From Mark H. I'd love to hear about Mick's time with 14 INT. Was that part of the Force Research Unit?
No, it's a totally different organisation. Force Research really was all about developing sources. Totally different. 14 inch was the meat and or the bread and butter of surveillance, following bad people, and ultimately stopping terrorist attacks, if that makes sense. But Force Research, totally different organisation.
Mark also asks, what do you think about the news coming out about the steak knife inquiry from last year?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's two sides to every story, I suppose, and I don't think the real story will ever come out. Because he was playing both sides, if that makes sense, and I'm very surprised that the IRA didn't. As soon as the IRA found out, that they didn't take him out straight away, if that makes sense. But it's one of them things that's going to take a long time before everything's been revealed.
One more from Mark. Do you have any thoughts on Ian Hurst and his accounts of his time in Northern Ireland?
Sorry, question again, mate?
Any thoughts on Ian Hurst and his accounts of his time in Northern Ireland?
Ian Hurst, not really. A lot of people have, their ideas and different. It's funny. Someone said to me the other day, Mick, getting in the farm industry, if you was to work over in Northern Ireland, would you help a staunch Republican Catholic farmer, who detested the army? And the answer is yes, I would. I would actually help farmers who used to be terrorists. Why? Because I'm there to help the farmer, not his religion or his affinity to whatever, if that makes sense. So, yeah, Northern Ireland's quite a complex subject, depending on what side of the spear you're on. And everyone automatically assumes that the SAS were all about fighting the IRA. That's not the case. The SAS were after bad people, and if it just so happened that the IRA were more proactive, but the boys have been after Protestants as well. So,
all righty, one last one from M. Corbin. Would you mind sharing some of your tattoos? The work looks really good.
Sorry.
Sharing some of your tattoo work. Somebody in the audience said that they look really cool.
So they're all old school. Basically, I've got my life story on my arm. So I've got 26 bullet holes because I've been shot at 26 times in my military career. So basically, I've got a life story going up and all down my back, but they call them old school tats, if that makes sense.
Are those are they poppies?
Yeah.
That has like a world. There's like a World War I reference for the Brits, right?
Yeah. So poppies and yeah. So basically, it's funny when I left the military, I had blood droop, O-pos on my arm, 2 eyes on my bottom, and a small little spider on here. And since I've left the military, I decided to cover that, and it just grew. Tattoos are, they're very addictive.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, but because my daughter's got tattoos, and I said she wanted one when she was 18, and I said yes, you can have a tattoo, but it has to have some sort of meaning. Don't go in there just get a little fancy picture. That means nothing. Get something that when you look at it, so for me, the poppies, people died. All the roses are for my kids, 4 kids and stuff like that. Commando, dagger, parachute, and all that sort of stuff. So, it means something to me.
Yeah.
Anyone else, it means nothing.
So Mick, thank you again. I just want to tell folks out there, please check out a friend of the show, Casa Carabeo Cigars. Provide us with cigars, and it's a small veteran-owned business, casacarabeo.com. Please go check them out. Appreciate it. Mick, this has been awesome, man. Thank you for sharing your story with us. I hope people will go and check out your book. I want to check it out when it comes out, Life on the Edge. I think what people will be able to go find it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to go hard copy and softback, but it's also going to go out on audio as well.
Great.
On Amazon.
And Mick, we'll put your
Links in the
website
description.
for your security company down in the description as well. So if anybody's in the UK or anywhere in the world, check that out. The link is in the description.
Oh, fantastic. Really much appreciated.
Thank you, Mick. And we will see all of you guys next week. Thank you for joining us tonight. Hey guys, it's Jack. I just want to talk to you for a moment about how you can support the show if you've been watching it, enjoying it, but you'd like to get a little bit more involved and help us continue to do this. You can check out our Patreon. It is patreon.com/theteamhouse. And for $5 a month, you can get access to all of these episodes of the Team House ad-free. The same goes with our affiliated podcast, Eyes On, with Andy Milburn, Jason Lyons, Mick Mulroy. That one, you will also get all of those episodes ad-free. And you support the channel and the show, and we really appreciate it. The Patreon members are literally what has helped this company, this small business survive, especially during our early years. And you are what continues to help this thing going, even as we navigate the turbulent world of YouTube advertising. So we really appreciate all of you guys. There's going to be a link down in the description to that Patreon page, and there is also going to be a link to our new merch shop. So if you guys want to go and get some Team House merchandise, we got stickers, and we also have patches. And I should mention, if you sign up for Patreon at $10 a month, we will mail you this patch as well. So we really appreciate that. But they're also for sale on the merch shop. And additionally, they got t-shirts up there, water bottles, a tote bag, coffee mugs, all that good stuff. So please go and check them out and support the show. We really appreciate it, guys. Thank you.